The wind howled across the barren expanse, sweeping fine white sand over jagged rock formations that rose like the broken ribs of some long-dead giant. The air was thin, dry, laced with an unnatural chill, the kind that settled deep into the bones. KNs were always cold on K729, a planet so inhospitable even the simplest microbial life struggled to survive. Yuan Cook adjusted his visor, feeling the familiar stiffness of his old combat suit as it compensated for the drop in temperature. His boots crunched over the frozen sand as he made his way back to camp, where the dull glow of portable floodlights cast long, flickering shadows over the prefab research outpost. "Any luck?" Ree Alcock's voice crackled over the comms, casual but laced with underlying fatigue. "Negative," Yuan replied. "Surface scans came back clean. No water pockets, no anomalies, just rock and more rock." "Sounds about right," Reese muttered. "Another exciting day in the ass end of the galaxy." Inside the outpost, Allison Darcy was hunched over a terminal, working the holographic interface. Her blonde hair was tied back in a practical knot, her sharp green eyes scanning the biosensor readings with cool, focused precision. "You're back early," she noted, not looking up. "Wasn't much to find," Yan admitted, setting his rifle on the rack by the entrance. "Sand, rock, and disappointment." "Well," Ree said from his station, "at least that confirms what the last 5 scans told us." Yuan was about to retort when a sharp beep cut through the stale air. A crimson light flickered on Reese's console, irregular pulsing, an incoming transmission. "Hold on," Reese muttered, adjusting the frequency. His usual relaxed demeanor tensed as the data stream translated across his screen. "We're picking up something." Allison turned to face him fully now, her brows furrowing. "A signal." "Yeah, but it's weird. Encrypted, alien origin, definitely not standard Alliance channels." Yan stepped closer, watching the data scroll across the terminal. "Source." Reese ran a quick triangulation, his expression darkening. "Roughly 16 clicks east. No registered structures, no settlements, nothing." "Then where the hell is it coming from?" Allison asked. The signal repeated, a desperate rhythmic call buried under layers of static. There was no mistaking it, a distress beacon. For a moment, none of them spoke. "Could be a trap," Reese said finally. Yuan's tone was quiet but certain, "or someone really needs help." He turned back to the weapons rack, retrieving his rifle and securing it to his back. Reese sighed, leaning back in his chair. "You're actually going out there, aren't you?" "You got a better idea?" Yan asked, securing the fastenings on his armor. "Yeah, not walking into an obvious death zone." Yan smirked. "You know what they say about old Marines." Reese rolled his eyes. Yeah, they're old for a reason. You ever get tired of that line?" "Not really," Yuan replied, stepping toward the garage where the pod, a small, fast recon vehicle, was docked. Allison crossed her arms. "Be careful, Cook." "Always," he said, climbing into the cockpit. The engine thrummed to life, and within seconds the pod shot out into the dark. The terrain blurred beneath him as the pod weaved through the rocky landscape, its headlights cutting through the dust-laden air. The signal grew stronger, guiding him toward a narrow valley flanked by towering cliffs. Then he saw it. The ground ahead was scarred, charred black with the unmistakable remnants of an aerial bombardment. Twisted wreckage jutted out from the sand, fragments of ships, their hulls seared and broken. A cockpit sheared clean in half still flickered with the dying glow of a shattered console. A severed limb, alien and rigid with death, protruded from the debris like a warning. The wind howled through the wreckage, carrying the scent of scorched metal and something darker, something organic. Yuan slowed the pod, scanning the area. "Reese, Allison, you getting this?" he said over the comm. "Loud and clear," Reese replied, voice tight. "That's a battlefield." "Looks recent." Yan stepped out of the pod, rifle in hand, moving cautiously through the wreckage. The destruction was total. Whoever had been here hadn't just been attacked, they'd been obliterated. Then his HUD flashed. "Got something," he muttered, adjusting his visor. His scanner highlighted a faint energy signature, weak but present. He followed the signal deeper into the debris until he saw it, a half-buried structure, its reinforced exterior camouflaged beneath layers of sand and metal shards. A bunker. Yan approached carefully, pressing a gloved hand against the sealed entry panel. A faint reading pulsed from within, life signs. "Reese, I've got survivors." Static crackled for a moment before Reese's voice came through. "Copy that, we're inbound." Yan glanced up at the sky, the oppressive darkness stretching endlessly above. A deep unease settled in his gut. Something about this didn't sit right. The research outpost's dropship cut through the sky, landing amidst the wreckage with efficiency. Reese and Allison disembarked immediately, moving toward the bunker where Yuan waited. "Let's get this open," Yuan said, shouldering his rifle. Reese knelt by the console, working quickly over the damaged interface. "Looks like it's been locked from the inside. Whoever's in there didn't want company." Allison moved to his side, examining the outer structure. "Blast marks. Someone tried to force their way in." "Didn't succeed," Yan noted grimly, "but they made sure no one could get out either." Reese cursed under his breath as sparks flew from the console. "Manual override is fried. We'll have to do this the old-fashioned way." Yan nodded. "Stand back." With a controlled step forward, he placed a shaped charge against the door's locking mechanism and primed the detonator. A 3, 2, 1. The explosion was sharp, precise. The bunker's door groaned as it slid open fully, revealing the dim interior where the alien survivors huddled in the shadows. The air inside was thick with the metallic scent of scorched electronics and the acrid tang of burned materials. Some of the aliens flinched at the sudden exposure to light, their thin, ridged bodies trembling from exhaustion and injury. Yuan stepped inside, his rifle lowered but ready. Allison stepped forward, her rifle raised, visor adjusting to the dim light inside. Figures huddled against the walls, aliens, their bodies weakened, their breathing ragged. They were tall, slender, with elongated limbs and ridged chitis plating across their bodies. Their eyes, large and glassy, reflected the dim light. Some were slumped over, unconscious, others barely stirred. She knelt beside one of the more severely injured aliens, carefully helping them to their feet. Their body was frail, their chitis exoskeleton dull and cracked. The alien let out a weak warbling sound, perhaps gratitude, perhaps pain. One, however, pushed himself up, his limbs shaking. His voice came in broken, gasping tones, "Help us." Allison immediately moved to check his vitals. They're dehydrated, malnourished, some have burns, bad ones. Yuan turned, scanning the others. "These aren't soldiers, this was a slaughter." Reese's console chirped an alert. Yan saw the look on his face and knew it was bad. Tell me." "Movement in orbit," Reese said. "Small fleet, they're scanning the surface." Yuan stiffened. "Did you send any signals?" Reese shook his head. "No, nothing." From the shadows of the bunker, one of the aliens looked up, his already pale skin draining of color. His voice was a whisper choked with fear. "They found us." Yan turned sharply. "Who?" The aliens swallowed hard. "They came back." "We need to move them now," Allison said, urgency in her tone. "Some of them won't make it if we waste time." Reese was already outside, prepping the ship's cargo bay for evacuation. "I'm unlocking the docking ramp. Get them inside fast." Yan led the first group out of the bunker. As soon as the cold night air hit them, the aliens recoiled, their bodies clearly unaccustomed to the exposure. The desert wind howled around them, kicking up dust that clung to their already fragile forms. "Stay close," Yan barked, guiding them toward the ship. The first few made it aboard quickly, their movements sluggish but determined. Reese helped them inside, sealing the ramp behind each wave. The last alien, the one who had spoken earlier, hesitated at the threshold, his dark, glassy eyes flicked toward the sky, his mandibles twitching with something close to fear. "They will come," he whispered. Yan grabbed his arm, pulling him inside. "Then let's make sure they don't find us." The ramp sealed behind them and Reese darted toward the cockpit, starting the pre-flight sequence. "Get strapped in." Allison worked quickly, securing the injured in the ship's hold. One of them collapsed, their breath shallow. She cursed under her breath and pressed a stabilizer injector against their thin forearm. Yan dropped into the pilot's seat, hands moving on instinct as the ship roared to life beneath him. "Reese, tell me you're online." "Yeah, but we've got a problem." Reese's voice was sharp. "Sensors are picking up movement in orbit and it's fast." Yuan's grip tightened on the controls. "How fast?" Reese cursed under his breath. "Faster than before. They're adjusting their search pattern, closing in on our position." One of the aliens, the same one who had warned them earlier, lifted his head weakly. His dark eyes flickered with alarm. "They are locking onto us." Yan didn't hesitate. "Strap in, we're leaving now." The ship rumbled beneath their feet as the engines roared to life. Sand and debris whipped around the landing site, caught in the thruster's violent wake. Yuan gritted his teeth as he hauled the last of the wounded aliens into the hold, his muscles straining under the weight. "Reese, get us off the ground now." Engines are hot, thrusters at full burn. You're clear to lift, Reese shot back, working quickly over the console as he rerouted auxiliary power. We don't have time to do a full system check, so let's just hope nothing critical explodes mid-flight. Yan didn't need a second invitation. He gripped the controls and yanked. The ship lifted off in a violent burst, the wreckage below blurred as they ascended into the night sky, the distant glimmer of enemy ships already closing in. Allison was already inside, crouched beside the group of aliens, administering basic medical aid. Their pale, chitin-plated bodies trembled under her hands, their wide, glassy eyes filled with exhaustion and fear. One of them, the one who had warned them earlier, struggled to sit up, his elongated limbs quivering from the effort. "They will not stop," he rasped, his voice rough alien vowels warping through the ship's translator. "They will hunt us." "Yeah, well, they'll have to catch us first," Yuan shot back. "Multiple contacts incoming," Reese called, his voice sharp. "They're closing fast." Yan swore under his breath, eyes flicking to the sensor readout. 6 ships, small attack craft moving in a tight formation. "They're trying to box us in," he growled. "We have speed on them," Reese said, hands darting over the controls, "but if they land a good hit." The entire ship jolted violently, warning sirens blared. "Like that," Reese finished through clenched teeth. "Status," Yuan demanded. "Shields are holding, but they tagged our aft stabilizer. We're going to have to compensate manually." Allison's voice cut in over the comms. "One of the aliens is going into shock back here. I need more time to stabilize them." "Not exactly something we can give you right now," Yuan muttered, gripping the controls tighter. Another impact rocked the ship, sending a shower of sparks raining from the overhead panels. "That was close," Reese hissed. "Engines are taking a beating." Yuan's jaw clenched as he pushed the ship into a hard dive, skimming dangerously close to the jagged terrain below. The attack craft followed, their plasma bolts scorching the ground in their wake. "We need reinforcements," Yuan said, slamming the ship into an evasive roll. "Get me Admiral Needham." Reese flicked the comms to a secured frequency, static crackling for a moment before a gruff, authoritative voice cut through. "Cook, what the hell is going on?" "Admiral, we have a problem," Yan said, voice steady despite the chaos. 6 hostiles in pursuit, looks like they belong to our own damn alliance." There was a pause on the other end. "Repeat that." "You heard me," Yuan growled. "These ships are running alliance formations. We are engaged and unable to make long jumps." The ship jolted again, alarms wailing. "That's because they just knocked out our damn jump drive," Reese barked. "Long-distance travel is off the table." "Understood," NM's voice came sharper now. "I'm mobilizing a response fleet. Transmit your location." Yan reached for the beacon. Then the first impact hit. The ship lurched violently, alarms wailing as the interior lights flickered. Yuan barely managed to keep control, his knuckles whitening over the controls. "Reese, what the hell was that?" "Direct hit comms are still active, but they're locking on again. Send the coordinates now," Yan barked. Reese's hands flew over the console, opening the encrypted channel. "Admiral transmitting." A second explosion ripped through the hull, sending static shrieking through the cockpit. The console dimmed, flickered, then went black. Reese slammed his fist on the panel. They took out the comms relay, were cut off. Allison's panicked voice came over the ship's internal line. "We're losing pressure back here." Yuan fought with the controls, hands locked onto the thrusters, desperately trying to level their descent. "Give me something, Reese." "Main engines compromised, but we're not dead yet," Reese shouted back. "Rerouting power, we still have maneuverability, but if they keep up that barrage." A low, wheezing voice interrupted them. One of the aliens, his dark, ridged eyes fixed on Yuan. "There is a station," he managed, each word strained. "Not far we may find safety, they are our friends." Yuan exchanged a glance with Reese. "You heard him," Yuan said. "Give me a heading." Reese checked the navigational grid. "There's something about 40 clicks out. Scans show weak energy signatures, but it could be an old outpost." Yan grimaced. "It'll have to do." He yanked the controls hard, sending the ship into a rapid vector shift toward the unknown station. Plasma fire streaked past the cockpit, illuminating the night in flashes of searing white. The enemy ships pursued relentlessly. "Hang on," Yuan muttered, his grip tightening on the controls. "We're not dead yet, not yet." The ship rattled violently as another near miss scorched past the hull. Alarms blared through the cockpit, the flashing red lights reflecting off Yuan's visor as he yanked the controls to the right, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. The enemy fighters were relentless, their formation tightening as they adapted to his maneuvers. "Reese, tell me you've got something," Yan barked, gritting his teeth as he forced the ship into another evasive roll. "Almost there," Reese shouted back, his hands flying over the console, running calculations for a short-range jump. "The nav system's fried, so I'm doing this blind. Hold the damn ship steady." Allison's voice crackled through the internal comms. "Two more injured back here. I can keep them stable, but I need this ride to stop throwing me into walls." Yan exhaled sharply, just a little longer. His eyes flicked to the sensors. The enemy ships were closing, their formation shifting to cut off their escape vector. They had maybe a minute before the next volley. "Arrays." Done, course locked, jumping in 3, 2. The ship jolted violently as it was wrenched into the slipstream of a micro-jump, the fabric of space folding around them. The shaking was worse than normal, uncontrolled, and the ship groaned in protest. Then, as suddenly as it started, it was over. The black void of space snapped back into place, stars flickering in strange distortions outside the cockpit. Yan barely had time to breathe before Reese cursed loudly. "That was rough. Engines are overheating, we can't pull another one like that." "How much distance did we gain?" Yan demanded. Reese checked the scanners, his expression tightening. "Enough to make them rethink their pursuit, but not enough to shake them completely. They're recalibrating, they'll be right behind us in minutes." Yan took a steadying breath and glanced at the nav display. The waypoint to the station was still ahead, a few more short jumps away. His fingers flexed against the controls. "All right, we do it again." Reese whipped his head toward him. "We barely held together that time. You want to try that again? We're going to fry something important." Allison's voice was tense. "He's right, Yuan, we have too many wounded. The ship can't take much more." Yan clenched his jaw. "We don't have a choice. If they catch us, we're dead." Reese hesitated, then swore under his breath. All right, give me a minute to cool the drives. We might get one more short jump, but that's it." The ship surged forward, tearing through the emptiness of space. Behind them, the enemy formation flickered on the scanners, closing in again. Yan could almost feel the heat of their weapons priming. "We got it. Engaging now." The second jump was just as rough as the first, the ship groaning as it fought against the strain. When they emerged, the station was finally visible in the distance, a dark silhouette against the scattered stars. "There it is," Reese shouted. "We made it." Yan didn't celebrate. He was already flipping the comms to open a frequency. "Unidentified station, this is Lieutenant Yan Cook, UED Marine Corps. We are requesting emergency docking authorization. Do you read?" For a moment, only static, then a harsh voice cut through. "Unidentified vessel, you are approaching restricted airspace. State your business immediately." Yan exhaled. "We have wounded, including civilians from a destroyed colony. We are under pursuit. Hostile forces will be here soon." Silence. Reese glanced at him. "They don't sound thrilled." Then the reply came, colder this time. "You are not registered in our system. Stand down and prepare to be boarded." "That's not an option," Yuan tensed. "We need immediate." The alien they had rescued, the one who had guided them here, suddenly forced himself upright in the hold. His breathing was ragged, his injuries severe, but there was a fire in his dark eyes. "This is Varrak, son of Taos," he said, his voice straining through the translator. "My people are aboard. You will grant them sanctuary." A long pause, then finally the station commander's voice returned, hesitant now. "Varrak, by the stars you live." Varrak coughed, gripping his side. "Not for long if you do not let us in." Another silence, but this time it wasn't hesitation. It was realization. "Understood," lowering shields. "Proceed to docking bay 12. Yuan exhaled in relief, but it was short-lived. "Incoming signatures," Reese shouted. "They're here." The enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace, just as the station came into full view. "Too late to dock," Yan growled. "We fight." The station's defenses powered up as the battle erupted. The first blast struck just as Yan jerked the ship into a tight evasive roll. The energy shields flared, absorbing the impact, but the shock wave rattled through the hull. Red warning indicators flooded the cockpit, and recursed as he scrambled to stabilize the systems, working fast to keep everything from overloading. "They're cutting off our approach," Ree shouted. Shields at 60%, we won't last in open space for long. Yuan gritted his teeth, pushing the ship into a hard dive. Below them, the station's defense turrets whirred to life, automated cannons swiveling to track the incoming hostiles. The first defensive volleys lashed out, beams of concentrated plasma slicing through the void. One of the enemy fighters took a direct hit, its hull rupturing before it spiraled into oblivion. The comms crackled to life with a voice from the station. Defensive grid online, hold your position, unidentified vessel, we are deploying countermeasures. We don't have a position to hold, Yan shot back, banking hard to avoid another barrage. The enemy ships moved in flawless coordination, their formation shifting like a tightening noose. We need room to maneuver. The station's response was immediate. A squadron of sleek silver-hulled interceptors launched from one of the lower bays, their thrusters burning bright as they streaked toward the battlefield. Their design was different from the attackers, sleeker, more agile. Reese exhaled, that's our backup, about damn time. Yuan muttered, flipping the ship around to engage. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Yan pulled the ship into a sharp arc, coming in behind one of the enemy craft. Locking target firings. The railgun spat molten tungsten into the void. The rounds slammed into the enemy's aft thrusters, tearing through armor plating. The ship sputtered, trying to stabilize before one final shot from the station's cannons ripped it apart. Allied squadron is engaging, Ree reported. They're keeping them off our backs, but these bastards aren't breaking formation. Allison's voice came through, tense but focused. One of the wounded aliens just said something. They will not retreat, they are ordered to finish this. Yuan's gut twisted, that meant no survivors. The station's commander came over the comms. We are mobilizing our primary strike force. Continue evasive maneuvers until we push them back. Another wave of ships launched from the station, heavier gunships moving into position. They advanced in a tight formation, picking off enemy fighters with pinpoint precision. Reese scanned the battlefield, eyes narrowing as he worked the console. This isn't a standard skirmish. They're pressing hard, but it's not just aggression, it's discipline. Yan dodged another barrage. What are you thinking? Reese adjusted his visor, analyzing energy signatures from the wreckage. I think we need to take a closer look at these ships. The battle raged on as Reese and Allison worked quickly. The wreckage of an enemy fighter tumbled through space, still partially intact. Their ship's grappling field latched onto it, pulling the twisted hull closer, bringing it into scanning range. This shouldn't take long, Reese muttered. Allison leaned over his shoulder, check the weapons logs first. Reese nodded, scanning rapidly as data scrolled across the console. Ammunition stockpiles, targeting patterns, firing frequencies. Then he froze. This can't be right. Yuan, still piloting, glanced back. What? Ree enlarged the data display. These energy signatures, these weapons, they belong to a faction within our own damn alliance. Allison's eyes narrowed. Are you sure? Ree adjusted the output, filtering through the encoded signals. The verification was instant. He turned to Yuan, his expression grim. It's confirmed, this is Black Ops gear, restricted tech. Someone in the Alliance supplied these bastards. Yan didn't hesitate. Transmit everything to the station, they need to see this. Allison's hands moved to her earpiece. We should inform Needham. Yan exhaled, we will, but first we finish this fight. The battle shifted. The enemy ships, already outmatched, struggled to maintain their assault. One by one, they were picked apart, some taken down by precise cannon fire from the station, others shredded by the interceptors maneuvering through their ranks. Explosions lit up the void as the last of them was obliterated, leaving only debris drifting in the dark. The station commander's voice returned over comms. Enemy force eliminated, confirming battlefield control. Yan finally allowed himself to breathe. That's one problem down. Reese ran one last diagnostic, and one much bigger one waiting for us. Yuan switched frequencies. Station command, we need to dock now. Understood, docking bay 12 is clear. As the ship approached, Yan turned to his crew, his voice quiet but resolute. This isn't over. Docking clamps locked into place with a heavy clang, and the ship finally settled onto the reinforced deck of Outpost Theta. Yuan sat back, jaw tight, the tension still radiating through his body. The battle had drained them, but they had no time to recover. Reese, get the system stable. Allison, make sure the wounded are secured. Yan ordered as he unstrapped himself from the pilot's seat. Reese barely glanced up from his console. Already on it, power relays took a hit, but nothing I can't patch together. Allison was already moving, checking the condition of the rescued aliens. Their leader, Varek, weakly lifted his head, his voice strained. "We owe you our lives." Yan gave a curt nod. "Stay here, we need to deal with something first." He strode down the ramp, stepping into the stark metallic corridors of the station. The air was thick with tension. Soldiers moved with urgency, station crew relaying orders as engineers scrambled to reinforce the defenses. The scars from the battle were still fresh. A figure was waiting for them at the end of the hallway, a broad-shouldered alien with deep crimson scales, standing tall in a crisp military uniform. Commander Jalik Verol, his reptilian eyes locked onto Yuan with a mixture of suspicion and urgency. "You brought trouble to my doorstep, human." Jalik said, his voice a deep, guttural growl. Yan wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. "We saved your people, that's why we're here." Jik's gaze flicked toward the docking bay where medics were tending to the injured aliens. His expression shifted slightly before he spoke. Come with me." Yan followed without another word, Reese and Allison close behind. They entered a secure operations room where a large holographic display flickered with battlefield data. Jik gestured toward a comm station. "Your admiral has been trying to reach you," he said. Yan wasted no time. He activated the comms, and within seconds the grizzled face of Admiral Otten Needham filled the screen, his expression a mixture of relief and irritation. "Cook report." Yuan straightened. "Admiral, we have a serious problem. The attack on the settlement on these people, it wasn't random. The weapons, the tactics, they belong to the Alliance." NM's face darkened. "Explain," stepped forward, transferring the data they had recovered. "Sir, these weapons have Alliance military signatures, Black Ops gear. There's no chance these attackers got them without inside help." NM studied the data in silence for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was colder than before. "This just became a whole different kind of war." Yuan clenched his fists. "What's our move?" NM's answer was immediate. "You return to Central Command. We take this to the Council." Before Yuan could respond, alarms erupted across the station. Jalik snapped toward a nearby officer. "Report." A technician's voice cut through the noise. "Multiple hyperspace signatures inbound." Yuan's gut twisted. "How many?" Allison was already scanning the data as it streamed in, her fingers tensed over the console. This can't be right," she muttered. Reese looked at her sharply. "How many, Allison?" She swallowed hard, eyes locked on the display. "Too many." A new, urgent voice crackled over the station's intercom. "Enemy fleet incoming, we are outnumbered." Yuan turned back to the comms, his voice tight. "Admiral, we have company." NM's face remained unreadable, but his tone carried the weight of command. "Hold the line, I'll send help." The transmission cut out, the Admiral's image fading into static. For a moment the room was silent. Then Jik stepped forward, his posture rigid, eyes locked on the tactical display. "We will hold as long as we can. Our defenses are active and I am deploying all available fighters to the front line. I'm also sending a distress call. We will not stand alone." Yan gave a sharp nod. "That's what I needed to hear." Reese looked at him, realization dawning. "Wait, you're going out there alone." Yan didn't answer immediately. He turned to Allison and Reese. "If I take you with me, we all die. Stay here, help them however you can." Allison exhaled sharply but didn't argue. "Then you better make it back." Yuan clasped Reese's shoulder briefly, then turned and sprinted toward the docking bay. "You know what they say about old Marines, right?" Reese exhaled, shaking his head. "Yeah, they're old for a reason, just try to stay that way." Allison folded her arms, "And come back with that reason still intact." The station trembled under the first wave of enemy fire. Through the viewport, hyperspace ruptures tore open the void, a second fleet emerging far larger than the first. Yuan climbed into his ship, sealing the hatch behind him. Systems flared to life as enemy targeting locks blinked red on his HUD. "All right," he muttered, gripping the controls. "Let's give them a reason to regret this." As his ship roared out of the station, the battle had already begun. The instant Yuan's ship cleared the docking bay, hell erupted around him. Plasma fire rained down like a relentless storm, hammering the station's shields, which flared under the overwhelming pressure. The defense grid fought back, automated turrets unleashing streams of energy across the void, but the sheer volume of enemy fire was too much. The station's protective barrier flickered violently, warning indicators flashing red across Yuan's HUD. Then a coordinated strike hit. A devastating explosion tore through one of the station's gun emplacements, sending jagged metal debris spiraling into the void. The station shuddered under the impact, and the defenses stuttered for a brief moment, just long enough for the enemy to push forward. "Station control, I hope you've got some fight left," Yan growled, weaving between bursts of plasma fire. Commander Jick's voice came through, strained but focused. "They're overwhelming us, shields at 40%, we won't hold much longer." A second detonation rocked the station. Yuan saw it happen in real time, another turret ripped apart, sending flaming wreckage keening into space. He clenched his jaw. "Not on my watch." Shoving the throttle forward, he dived straight into the oncoming wave of enemy fighters. His rail guns roared, unleashing a barrage of tungsten rounds. One enemy craft burst apart instantly, shrapnel scattering in all directions. Another took a hit to its wing, spiraling out of control before slamming into the wreckage of the destroyed turret. Yuan jerked the controls hard, positioning himself between the station and the fighters. He wasn't just fighting, he was shielding them, forcing the enemy to go through him first. The attackers adjusted. A squadron of enemy fighters broke formation, sweeping low to target the station's weakened flanks. Yan saw the maneuver too late. A pair of strike bombers zeroed in on an exposed section of the hull, preparing to launch high-yield torpedoes. "Not happening," Yan muttered, twisting into pursuit. He lined up his shot and fired, a direct hit. One of the bombers detonated mid-flight, its payload igniting before it could reach the station. The second veered off, but not before launching its torpedo. Yuan gritted his teeth, pushing his ship to its limits. He barreled toward the projectile, weapons locking on. One shot, his railgun fired a tungsten round directly into the torpedo. The resulting explosion sent a shock wave rippling through his ship, the impact slinging him off course. Alarms shrieked in protest, and Yuan's vision blurred as he struggled to stabilize. Then the lock-on alarm blared. He only had a fraction of a second to react before plasma bolts slammed into his rear shields. The entire frame rattled violently, sparks spitting from the console as warning indicators flashed across his HUD. 3 enemy fighters had broken formation, hunting him specifically. "Cook, our shields are down to 35%, Jick's voice cut through the chaos. Yuan forced his ship into an erratic roll, trying to shake them, but they were too fast, coordinated, relentless. His shields flared under another impact. He was running out of options. The station was crumbling under the sheer weight of the attack, structural integrity failing, shield output dropping, weapons overheating. The station's defense squadrons, outnumbered and battered, fought desperately to hold the line, but they were losing ships fast. Yan tightened his grip on the controls. If reinforcements didn't arrive now, there wouldn't be anything left to save. Then the comms crackled with static, and a new voice cut through the chaos. "This is Captain Kristen Frankel of the reignites. Contact in 10 seconds, let's end this." Yan's breath caught, then space lit up. A massive rupture split the void and the reignites burst out of hyperspace, a towering warship, its hull bristling with weaponry. And it wasn't alone. An entire fleet emerged behind it, cruisers, destroyers, fighter squadrons, all bearing the unmistakable insignia of the United Earth Defense. The enemy formation faltered. Then the reignites opened fire. Hypervelocity cannons roared, launching kinetic slugs the size of small cars. The first volley tore through the enemy's larger ships, rupturing hulls and sending debris scattering like shrapnel. Railgun fire followed, tearing apart their formations before they could regroup. The UED fleet's fighter squadrons surged forward, tearing into the enemy's disorganized ranks. Yuan exhaled sharply, resetting his targeting. "About time." The battle shifted instantly. The hunters became the hunted. Enemy ships broke formation, attempting to retreat, but the reignites fleet cut off their escape routes. One by one, hostile ships were decimated. Minutes passed like an eternity, then silence. The battlefield was nothing but debris. The few remaining enemy ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing the slaughter. Yuan finally relaxed his grip on the controls. The comms crackled again. "Cook, you still alive?" Frankel's voice carried a smirk. Yen let out a breath, alive for now. Frankel chuckled, return to the station. We'll hold position until we're sure the area is secure. Yuan turned his ship toward the station, the wreckage of their enemies drifting lifelessly in the void. As he approached, he could still see the scorched battle scars across the station's hull. They had survived, but something told him this wasn't over yet. The ship shuddered violently as Yuan guided it back toward the station, dodging the lingering debris from the battle. Smoke still curled from the wreckage of destroyed enemy ships, their shattered hulls drifting aimlessly in the void. The Radamanthe's fleet remained in formation, a silent show of dominance, its massive warships holding the line around the station. Yuan flexed his hands, stiffness biting through his gloves after gripping the controls too long. The damage was extensive. The hull was scorched from glancing plasma fire, stabilizers barely functional, and the shield array flickered with low energy readings. He angled the ship toward the docking bay, following the remaining Allied fighters and patrol craft already returning from the battlefield. The station's hangar field flickered as he crossed the threshold, and his landing struts touched down with a dull metallic thud. The engines whined as they powered down, the vibrations settling into silence. The hatch hissed open, releasing a burst of stale, overheated air. Reese and Allison were already moving toward him. Reese let out a slow whistle as he looked over the damage. Damn, Cook, you sure you didn't fly through the inside of a star? Allison's eyes flicked over him, assessing, you look like hell. Yuan smirked tiredly, feel worse. He patted the side of the ship, and this thing's barely holding together. Reese snorted, running a diagnostic scan on the hull damage. Yeah, I can see that. You nearly burned out the stabilizers, the shields are running on fumes, and what the hell did you do to the comms relay? Yan stepped past him, kept us alive. Reese muttered something under his breath, already pulling up repair logs. Allison folded her arms, glancing toward the viewport where outside, the UED fleet hovered like silent sentinels, their weapons idle but ready. This doesn't feel like a victory. Yan followed her gaze, his expression unreadable. Well, we're alive, that's all that matters now. Inside the station's control center, the air was thick with tension. Officers moved quickly between hollow displays, technicians relaying battlefield data while repair crews worked to stabilize the station's critical systems. At the center of it all stood Commander Jick Verrill, his crimson-scaled form illuminated by the glow of tactical readouts. His reptilian eyes tracked every report, his rigid stance betraying exhaustion beneath his disciplined exterior. Yuan approached with measured steps, his boots echoing against the reinforced metal flooring. Jick turned to face him, studying him for a long moment before speaking. Your people fought harder than I expected, Cook. Yan crossed his arms, his expression unwavering. You haven't seen anything yet. Jick's gaze flicked toward the viewport, where new ships flickered into existence, emerging from hyperspace one by one. For a brief moment, tension flickered across his face until the scanner confirmed their identity. More of your fleet, Jick said, his voice quieter now. Your admiral is nothing if not thorough. Yuan watched as a massive command carrier slipped into view, dwarfing even the Radamanthys with its imposing bulk. That would be the Aegis, Admiral Needham's flagship. The cavalry had well and truly arrived. He doesn't take chances, Yan replied, not when it matters. Reese joined them, his face still lit by the glow of the data pad in his hands. I've finished preliminary analysis of the enemy wreckage. It confirms what we suspected. Those ships were running Alliance protocols, but the pilots, he hesitated, the remains aren't human. Jick's reptilian features tightened. Of course not, they are Krevar mercenaries, but they should not have had access to your weapons. Someone gave them access, Yan said, his voice edged with steel, and they targeted your people specifically. A moment of tense silence passed between them. Allison stepped forward, breaking the tension. The wounded are stabilized, but they need proper medical attention. Some have extensive radiation burns consistent with plasma weapons. Commander Jick nodded. Our medical bay is already prepared. We will care for our kin. His gaze fixed on Yuan. Your admiral is requesting your presence aboard his ship. A shuttle is waiting. Yuan exchanged glances with Reese and Allison. We'll all go. The shuttle ride to the Aegis was brief but tense. Yuan sat in rigid silence, mentally preparing his report. The evidence they had gathered was damning, but the implications were worse: treason within the Alliance, a targeted extermination of civilians, military-grade weapons in the hands of mercenaries. The shuttle docked with a soft thud, and they were escorted directly to the command deck where Admiral Needham was waiting. The Admiral was a stern figure, his weathered face bearing the marks of decades of service, his silver hair cropped close to his skull in the traditional military style. "Lieutenant Cook," Needham said by way of greeting, his piercing gaze taking in Yuan's battle-worn appearance. "Dr. Darcy, Specialist Alcock, you've had quite the day." "Sir," Yuan acknowledged with a crisp salute, "we have the evidence." Needham nodded, his expression grave. "I've reviewed what you transmitted. It's troubling, to say the least." He gestured to the command table where a holographic display showed the debris field around the station. "The question is, who within the Alliance would arm mercenaries against a civilian outpost, and why?" Reese stepped forward, presenting his data pad. "Sir, I've completed analysis of the weapons' signatures. They match a specific batch of ordnance allocated to the 7th Fleet." Needham's eyes narrowed. General Herrick's command. "Yes, sir," Reese confirmed. "And there's more. The attack patterns, the coordination, it bears the hallmarks of tactical division training." Allison interjected. "The survivors reported no warning, no demands, just a systematic extermination." "They weren't after resources or territory," Yuan added. "They were wiping them out." The Admiral paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back. "You understand what you're suggesting? That a high-ranking Alliance general authorized a covert attack against a civilian alien settlement using elite troops disguised as mercenaries." "We're not suggesting it, sir," Yuan said firmly. "The evidence proves it." Needham activated a secure channel on the command console. "Then we need to move quickly. If Herrick has gone rogue, the entire 7th Fleet might be compromised." He turned to face them fully. "This information doesn't leave this room, not until we've identified everyone involved." "Sir," Yuan hesitated. "There's one more thing. The aliens we rescued, they said this wasn't the first attack. Other settlements have been targeted." The Admiral's expression darkened further. "A pattern then, not just a single incident." "No, sir," Yuan confirmed. "It appears to be systematic." Needham was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the tactical display. "Lieutenant Cook, I'm reassigning your team effective immediately. This is now a covert investigation under my direct authority. You'll be provided with a new ship, a scout-class vessel with advanced stealth capabilities." "Our mission, sir." "Find the others," Needham said, his voice resolute. "Locate any survivors from these other settlements. Gather every piece of evidence you can. I want an ironclad case before we move against Herrick." Yuan exchanged glances with Reese and Allison. They all recognized the gravity of what was being asked. They would be hunting a traitor within their own ranks, pursuing evidence against one of the most powerful military leaders in the Alliance. "One last thing," Needham added, his tone deadly serious. "Trust no one outside this room. If Herrick has the resources to conduct these operations, he has people throughout the command structure. Communications will be encrypted and routed directly to me." "Understood, sir," Yuan replied. "When do we leave?" "Immediately. Your new ship is already being prepped. The Nightshade, small, fast, and off the official registry." As they were dismissed, Reese fell into step beside Yuan in the corridor. "You do realize we just volunteered to paint targets on our backs, right?" he muttered under his breath. "Herrick has 3 stars and a lot of friends." "Would you rather let him keep slaughtering civilians?" Yuan asked quietly. Reese sighed. "No. But it would be nice to occasionally have a mission that doesn't involve us possibly getting court-martialed or killed." Allison joined them, her expression determined. "If we find more survivors, we'll need supplies. Medical equipment, stabilizers, trauma kits." "Already making a list," Reese assured her. Yuan remained silent as they approached the docking bay where their new ship waited. The Nightshade was a sleek, angular vessel, its matte black hull designed to absorb rather than reflect sensor sweeps. It was smaller than their previous ship, but Yuan could tell just from looking at it that it was built for speed and stealth rather than direct combat. A young officer stood at attention beside the boarding ramp. "Lieutenant Cook, the ship is ready for your inspection. All requested modifications have been completed according to Admiral Needham's specifications." Yuan nodded. "Will depart within the hours." As the officer left, Reese ran his hand along the ship's hull, whistling softly. Well, if we're going to get ourselves killed chasing after a rogue general, at least we'll be doing it in style. We're not going to die, Yuan said firmly. We're going to find the truth and make sure justice is served. Allison began loading their equipment. The aliens we rescued, Varak and his people, they might know more about these other attacks, where to find survivors. Our first stop is back to the station, Yuan agreed. Varak survived for a reason. I want to know everything he knows. As they boarded the Nightshade, Yuan couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into something much bigger than a rogue general or isolated attacks. The coordination, the resources involved, the systematic nature of the assaults, it pointed to a broader conspiracy, one that could reach to the highest levels of the Alliance. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Right now they had survivors to find, evidence to gather, and a traitor to expose. One step at a time. The Nightshade's engines hummed to life, vibrating with a smoother, more refined energy than their previous vessel. As Yuan settled into the pilot's seat, hands instinctively finding the controls, he allowed himself a small moment of optimism. They were still alive, they had a mission, they had a purpose. And sometimes, in a galaxy as vast and cold as this one, that was enough.